Well, meanwhile, US President Donald Trump is holding bilateral meetings with German Chancellor Angela Merkel at the White House. The meeting has been widely expected to be a difficult one. The two leaders are holding talks in the Oval Office, hoping to narrow differences on issues such as NATO, Russia, and global trade. Analysts expect Merkel to raise the issue of a proposed US border tariff that would hit German manufacturers hard. Meanwhile, a White House official said that Trump wants to seek Merkel's views on Russia. Merkel has a decade's worth of experience interacting with the country. During his presidential campaign trail, Trump criticized Germany's trade surplus against the US. He vowed to take measures to address it. Well, for more on German Chancellor Angela Merkel's visit to the United States, we're now joined by Guy Henderson, who is live from the city of Baden-Baden. Guy, of course, with these leaders holding such divergent political worldviews, are they likely to see eye to eye on anything?
Good question. They've certainly been at odds on a lot of different issues these past few months. One of the things Angela Merkel said before she got on that plane to Washington was that it was important for these two leaders to meet, in her view, because it was better for them to be talking with each other than about each other. They have, in many ways, become standard bearers, if you like, for very different value systems at a time when Western politics is pretty polarized. The German government have made clear that they want to put the economy, though, at the very top of the agenda for these bilateral discussions. We've heard sounds from the new US administration about protectionism, as you mentioned, this idea of introducing a border tax, an import tax that could heavily affect Germany. Also discussions that have been taking place here at the G20 finance ministers meeting as well about possible plans in the United States to tear down some of those regulations, financial regulations agreed by G20 countries and brought in the view of the G20 at that time to avoid the kind of financial meltdown that we saw in 2008. The sounds coming out of the White House, or at least some sounds, have been that their view is that that is hampering growth and those kind of measures should be taken down. Merkel is there to try and persuade the Trump administration, I think, that it's not worth doing that.
And indeed, the other hot topic will, of course, be NATO. Do you think Merkel will be able to persuade the US president to commit to the NATO alliance?
Yeah, well, it's been interesting, just literally in the last month or so. The US Treasury Secretary here, Steve Mnuchin, the fourth senior official sent abroad by the Trump administration to give reassuring messages to the international community. And obviously, defense has been a key part of that. We saw that from the US Vice President, the Defense Secretary, the Secretary of State, all here in Germany in the last month. But when it comes to defense, I think there are still hopes that we might be able to hear those kind of same solid assurances from the US President Trump, Donald Trump himself. And I think that is something that also Angela Merkel is going to want to discuss, persuade, get a sense from Donald Trump face to face as to what his true views are on this, how much room for maneuver there might be when it comes to things like defense spending. Of course, the United States want European countries to do more quickly in terms of specifically military spending. Now, in the last couple of days, the Kremlin in Moscow has confirmed that Angela Merkel will be traveling to Moscow in May for some rare face-to-face talks with Vladimir Putin. That's the kind of dialogue, of course, that the Trump administration has been calling for with Russia. In return, it's pretty likely that Merkel is going to be wanting Donald Trump to make some very firm assurances, very public assurances about the US commitment to NATO in return.
Indeed, we'll have to wait and see. Well, thank you very much, Guy Henderson, for joining us there from Baden-Baden in Germany.